What is up guys, I'm Uriza. This story is all about what if Naruto became a villain. Naruto becomes the villain everyone in the village always thought he would be. Only one person will risk everything to try and redeem him. His best and most loyal friend, Uchiha Sasuke. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 9, Something Every Ninja Should Know. 5 men dressed in black moved through the woods to the edge of the clearing surrounding the shrine. They huddled together and looked over the darkened shrine. Even with its lights off they could see it clearly thanks to the moon. Remember, there are ninja in there. We need to be careful. One of the men whispered. Is this a good idea? Another asked. It has to be done, the first one said. What if the ninja are awake? A different man said nervously. It's 3 in the morning, I'm sure they're all asleep. You're sure of that, are you? An amused voice said from the tree branches just above them. All 5 of the would-be assassins gasped and looked up. There was an adult sitting calmly on a tree branch with a book in his hand. Near him on other branches were 3 identical blonde boys, all well hidden. Even in a nice quiet town like this we do still post a guard just in case. He snapped shut his book and put it away. I don't suppose you'd like to just give up now? He was answered by a shout and a throwing knife. The knife came nowhere near him. In the blink of an eye he was on the ground in the middle of them. A few punches, a couple kicks and it was all over. All 5 of them were unconscious. The 3 Kagebunsons jumped down and looked upset. No fair sensei. I didn't get the chance to do anything. Don't complain Naruto, it won't always be that easy. I just wanted to see for myself the level of the opposition. Looking at the prone bodies he snorted. They weren't much. Beneath his mask Kakashi frowned. No, they weren't, and that's what scares me. What do you mean? Isn't that a good thing? Squatting down near a couple of the unconscious men he nodded to them. Look closely Naruto and tell me what you see. Not understanding Naruto looked them over not sure what he was supposed to be looking for. I just see 5 men who came here to attack Shizuku and got beat up instead. You're not looking underneath Naruto. He reached out and pulled up a jacket one of them men had on. These men aren't in ninja gear or in any sort of armor. They're all wearing different kinds of work and casual clothes. Look at their weapons, he pointed to them. A couple short swords, a couple axes, some throwing knives, and even a couple kitchen knives and cleavers. Now what does all this tell you? Naruto shrugged. That they're not ninja or even real soldiers, they're probably just civilians who used whatever they had. Kakashi nodded. That's part of it, but it also means something else that is very troubling. What? It means these men were very likely volunteers rather than members of an organization. How can you tell that? The kunai and shuriken you have in your pouch, are they better or worse than the ones Sasuke or Sakura have? They're the same, I bought them in the same standard everyone else does. Though I had to pay about 3 times as much. Kakashi nodded. While many ninja have personalized weapons, all Leaf Ninja use the same basic kunai and shuriken because they are an organizational standard. Groups that work together closely will invariably develop certain common traits. But none of these men dressed alike or even brought the same weapons. So that would indicate they were assigned the job or volunteered for it and provided what they thought they would need themselves. I still don't see what the problem is. If these men were volunteers or assigned this job at random even though they apparently hadn't worked or trained together, that suggests there was a large body to select from, doesn't it? Up until now I'd thought this was a small group of religious fanatics. What if we're dealing with something much larger? Naruto thought about the implications and didn't like them. It doesn't matter, I'll keep her safe no matter how many people threaten her. Kakashi nodded. Yes we will, he grabbed 2 men and tossed one over each shoulder. In the meanwhile I have something to take care of. He looked over to the Naruto he'd been talking to. I'll handle this part on my own. What are you going to do? I'm just going to ask them a few questions, Kakashi said pleasantly. The clone looked calmly back at him. You're going to torture them. Only if I have to, and only as much as I have to. We need some information and time isn't on our side. A lot of what a ninja does isn't pretty and isn't glorious, but it's necessary. Let me watch, Naruto said in a deathly serious voice. I don't think this is something you need to see yet. It's necessary for a ninja though, isn't it? It's something I'll have to learn about eventually, right? Naruto demanded. I know you don't like to teach me anything, sensei, but just this once why don't you make an exception? Kakashi saw the look in Naruto's eyes. It was a look he'd seen many times, but never in anyone so young. Why do you want to learn about torture? Kakashi asked quietly. No special reason, he said with a false smile. Just thought it might come in handy someday. Several times Kakashi had wondered just what was there beneath that mask he used. Naruto played the happy idiot well. So well, in fact, many people accepted the persona without question. But Kakashi was nothing if not observant. He'd watched both Naruto and Sasuke very carefully and had serious concerns about both. He suspected that both boys were being consumed by rage and a desire for revenge. Naruto hid this while Sasuke didn't bother to. Every now and again Naruto would let his mask slip and reveal something very scary. Of the two of them, Naruto worried him the most because he was so determined to keep his true nature hidden. All right, Kakashi answered. If you really want to see, that's fine, pick up the other three and follow me. Naruto nodded and three clones picked up three men before following Kakashi deeper into the woods away from the shrine. Hi there. The man slowly opened his eyes. He found himself staring into a masked face with some crazy hair and one eye covered up. And the face was upside down. It took a moment for him to realize he was the one upside down. He looked about and saw he was tied up and being suspended over a small stream. What's going on? That's my line, Kakashi told him. By the way, my name is Hatake Kakashi and I'm a ninja from Konoha. Who might you be? The man clamped down his teeth and stared back defiantly. Not going to answer my questions, eh? I understand, and I want you to know I respect your loyalty to your comrades. Kakashi released a rope he'd been holding in his right hand. The man fell into the water below. Caught by surprise, he'd been gasping and had not thought to hold his breath. As soon as he hit the water, he took in a mouthful of water and started to choke. His instincts took over and he thrashed about trying to free himself. His arms and legs were bound tight though, so it was all just wasted motion. The air left his mouth and nose and the water poured in. He could feel the water fill his nose and throat as he tried to breathe. Terror filled him as all he could see was murky water. Then, just as he thought he was really going to drown, the rope around his ankles tightened and he was hauled up out of the water. As his prisoner coughed and gagged, Kakashi patiently waited. There was no point in talking until the man had a chance to recover a bit. When the coughing passed and he was breathing normally, Kakashi spoke. But while I admire your loyalty, I have a job to do. I need you to answer all my questions and answer them truthfully. I promise you that if you do that, you won't be harmed. If you don't, I can't answer for what may happen here. You can't do that, I'm a citizen of Fire Country. Without a word, Kakashi let go of the rope again. This time the man managed to take a breath and shut his mouth. That didn't stop the water trickling in through his nose though. And before long he could feel his lungs aching. He finally opened his mouth and the water came in again. He struggled like a fish on a hook but couldn't get his head out of the water. Again, just as it seemed he was really going to die, he felt himself being yanked up out of the water. Watching cough and gag and then desperately breathe in the air, Kakashi knew this wouldn't take long. Very few people could last any amount of time under torture. Unless you were someone trained to endure pain and who was willing to die. Like a ninja. I am a representative of the Lord Hokage on a mission and charged to complete that mission by whatever means necessary. I am not answerable to you, your village, or even to the Fire Daimyo himself. The only one I must answer to is the Lord Hokage. And if I have to kill a few pieces of garbage like you to protect my client, I will. Now, let's try again. Who are you? My name is Jibo. A pleasure to meet you, Jibo. Now please tell me who you are working with. Naruto watched as Kakashi dropped the man into the water for a third time. It was interesting watching Kakashi go. Whenever people had hurt him, it had always been with anger. Watching someone inflict a measured amount of suffering without even a speck of anger was definitely different. Naruto watched and listened as the man began to talk about everything he knew. He required no more dunkings, his spirit seemed broken. Is that all it takes to break someone? He thought contemptuously. He thought off all the beatings, all the threats, all the cruelty he'd been forced to swallow at so many hands. If he were the sort to break so easily, he'd have committed suicide long ago. When Kakashi finally had all his answers, he knocked the prisoner out and brought his soaking wet body over to a tree where he was tied up and gagged. Kakashi then went and retrieved another prisoner. He had tied each one to a different tree a good ways from here. They would have no chance to talk to each other or hear what their friend had already answered. Each prisoner was tortured, their answers expanded his information and either confirmed or called into doubt what he'd been told. Naruto found the lesson very instructive. Through all this, the shrine remained under the watchful eyes of Naruto's clones. By the time Kakashi was done, the clones who had accompanied him dispelled themselves, giving their original all the information. The real Naruto woke up knowing everything that had happened. He crawled over to Sasuke and Sakura and shook them awake. "What is it, Naruto?" Sakura asked in a bleary voice. Looking out the window, she saw it was still pitch dark outside. "Geez, what time is it? Was there a reason you woke us up, Dobe?" Sasuke asked. "Yeteme, we had visitors during the night and we're going to have more of them this morning." Sasuke came fully awake and looked very interested. "What are you talking about?" "Kakashi-sensei will explain everything, but we need to get up and get ready." A few hours later it was morning and the sun was up above the horizon. Izuku and Sakura were the only ones still inside the shrine. Sakura hadn't wanted to be here, she'd wanted to be outside with Sasuke-kun and the others. Kakashi though had ordered her to remain here and keep an eye on Izuku. "Will it be alright?" Izuku asked nervously. Sakura nodded her head forcefully. "It will be fine. Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun, and even Naruto can all take care of themselves. And I'll make sure nothing happens to you." Despite her smile, she was filled with doubt. "Cha, I'm the weakest and sensei knows it too. That's why he's keeping me out of the way." Outside the shrine, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto all waited. For once the two teammates wore similar expressions, they both had looks of eager anticipation. Kakashi was standing there calmly reading his book. With or without the mask it would have been impossible to know what he was thinking. Naruto suddenly turned to him. "One of my clones just dispelled, they're coming, and they should be here pretty soon." Kakashi slowly nodded. Naruto's shadow clone technique was really useful in all sorts of ways. He closed his book and put it away. "How many of them are there?" "I counted 100, Naruto said. "You can account that high?" Sasuke asked. "Shut up, Teme," Naruto grunted. Kakashi sighed. "Just remember, we just need to stop them. Don't use lethal force unless it's necessary." Naruto noticed Sasuke shake a little. "You afraid bastard?" Sasuke looked at him with a rare grin. "I'm shivering from excitement dead last." "Well, this should definitely be exciting," Kakashi said. About 10 minutes later they saw a long line of men approaching them. About half of them wore leather jerkins covered by coats with badges pinned to them. Each of them wore a short sword similar to the ones 2 of their prisoners had used. The rest of the crowd approaching them wore different sorts of outfits and carried a wide variety of weapons ranging from axes to spears to swords and even sickles. They came up to the edge of the clearing and stopped. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sasuke were all standing there calmly. One of the men who wore a badge spoke up. "I am Captain Hotaka, commander of the Haikuto police force. We've had word of an incident last night." "That's interesting," Kakashi noted. "Especially since no one's contacted the police about what happened here this morning." Hotaka frowned but pressed on. "Mayor Binya has decided that it would be best to leave the priestess's safety in our hands." "Really? He went to the trouble of hiring us in the first place because he didn't trust his own police force with protecting her." "The mayor has since had a change of heart," Hotaka told him. "We realize we have wasted your time and apologize for that. We will still pay for the full cost of your services, but we'd like you to leave now." "I am afraid that would be impossible," Kakashi said. "My team and I were dispatched here to complete a mission, and that is exactly what I intend to do. Your mission is over now, we'll take care of the girl. Her name is Izuku." Naruto said angrily. If you're going to talk about her, at least use her name. Sasuke looked over in surprise while Kakashi gave no reaction. I am afraid you don't have the authority to cancel this mission, Kakashi said. I think it would be best for you and your men if they turned around and left. I can't do that, Hotaka said and placed a hand on his short sword. That appeared to be a signal as behind him weapons were drawn and readied. Stand aside or me and my men will use force, Hotaka said. You and your men are welcome to try. At a signal the men shouted and ran forward. Chapter 10, Whatever It Takes. The men all gave a shout and came on, weapons ready. As they did so, Naruto's jumped down from the nearby trees among them. Instantly everything dissolved into one wild melee. 3 men with badges and short swords were on Kakashi at the start. These men were strong and healthy, and from the way they moved it was clear they'd had at least a little practice with their swords. From the looks in their eyes it was also clear they were deadly serious about reaching their target. For someone like Kakashi all that meant very little. The challenge for him wasn't in defeating these men but in doing so without seriously injuring them. In a blur 2 fists smashed into unprotected faces while the third was hit in the side of the head with a kick. All 3 attackers went down in under 3 seconds. Despite this show of strength and martial skill, other men came at him with swords and axes, desperate to bring the Jonin down by sheer force of numbers. Kakashi had no doubts he could handle any number of these people, but they did get between him and his students. Sasuke was surrounded by 4 men, all of them at least a foot taller and 50 pounds heavier and armed. The Uchiha was smiling, his heart was pounding, and for the first time in years he felt really truly alive. Here was a chance to actually do something, to fight a real battle against a real enemy. The man in front of him screamed and swung an axe aiming to split his skull in half. Too slow, Sasuke stepped forward into the arc of his swing and delivered a pair of rabbit punches to the man's kidneys that doubled him up. He had no chance to do more as someone else stabbed at him with a spear. A single chop of his hand broke off the metal head. Grabbing the wooden staff he drove it forward through his opponent's lax grip. The butt end of the spear slammed into his stomach. With a loud oof he fell over clutching his belly. From behind 2 more men came at him with swords swinging. These 2 had enough sense to come at him as a team. As one stabbed, the other tried to get behind him. Sasuke was forced to dodge and jump back as the second man's sword came close to cutting him. For civilians they were pretty fast. Then something strange happened. For no reason he could see they slowed down. Not only did they slow down, he could see just where they were aiming their strikes. Taking out a kunai he blocked one attack and delivered a kick to the side of the man's knee. He went down in a heap and wouldn't be standing, let alone fighting again anytime soon. His friend ran in stabbing at Sasuke's chest. The move was ridiculously obvious as Sasuke could see it coming. He easily dodged and delivered a punch to the side of his jaw that ended the fight. 4 men lay at his feet unconscious or otherwise disabled. It was just as Sasuke had always known it would be, they were no match for him. He waded into the crowd eager for more battle. Oblivious to the fact his Sharingan was now active. Come on! Naruto screamed. His fist slammed into a man's chest and he could feel ribs break. He was the Kyuubi, his speed and physical strength were greater than they should have been, as was his ferocity. The man he hit cried out and dropped his sword, backing away from him. Naruto didn't hesitate, he delivered a punch that busted open the man's mouth and sent blood and teeth flying. With him down he looked around for someone else to fight. He and his clones were cutting loose, fighting with a wild abandon. Naruto was discovering that he really liked fighting. He actually enjoyed bloodshed, the sight of it, the metallic smell of it, it was wonderful. This is what I was born for. He thought as a punch slammed into a man's back, bringing him down without warning. I'm the Kyuubi and this is my nature. In the midst of fighting he found an odd sort of peace. He didn't have to pretend to be something he was not, he could let his nature come out. He could show them the monster he was slowly becoming. Normally he was surrounded by nothing but lies and deception, everyone pretending to be something else, himself included. On the battlefield though you got to see what someone really was. All through the fighting he had held back from using lethal force as Kakashi had instructed. He wanted to kill though, wanted to see and taste more blood. He wanted to be buried in that wonderful scent. But he held back. He couldn't reveal too much of the real him, not yet. So he looked around for someone new to fight. And by chance saw two men who had gotten behind them in the confusion and were kicking down the shrine's door. They could both hear the sounds of the fight raging outside. The two girls had locked the one and only door and covered the windows. They both waited in silence as they heard but did not see what was going on just outside. Without warning, the wooden burst open, shards of wood sent flying from the broken lock. Two men with leather jerkins and badges rushed in with swords drawn and murder in their eyes. "Get behind me, Izuku!" Sakura cried and gripped a kunai in both hands while putting herself between the intruders and her client. This was it, this was the moment she had strived for, worked for, learned all the ninja rules for. She was in a life and death situation, she was acting like a real ninja. And it was only at this moment that she had a horrible epiphany, she was scared. These two men wanted to kill her. They didn't give a damn who she was or if she was the girl best suited to be with Sasuke. All they saw was an enemy they had to get through to reach their objective. Her heart was pounding and she couldn't keep her knees from shaking. Somehow during all the years at the academy as she had focused on her pursuit of Sasuke and on being the best in academics, she had never thought about this side of being a ninja. That was absurd, that anyone could spend years striving to be a ninja and never once wonder about the reality of a life and death fight. Such violence was the reason ninja and ninja villages existed. Yet whenever she would imagine herself going on missions, her thoughts always revolved around her amazing Sasuke with her skills. The idea that one day she would have to kill or be killed never really registered. Until now. As the men came at her howling, she was half a step too slow. Her fear led to hesitation, and her hesitation led to what she feared. With her kunai she managed to deflect one of the swords, but was unable to get out of the way of the second. Her eyes widened as the tip of the second blade went into the soft flesh just below her right shoulder and sunk in deep. Ah! Her cry of terror belonged to a 12-year-old girl, not to a ninja. She jerked back and the sword came out of her. Pain engulfed her shoulder as her right arm no longer wanted to work. She saw and felt the hot blood flow from her gash and darken her red dress. "Sakura!" Izuku called out. As Sakura stumbled back, the two men did not hesitate. They did not offer her a chance to surrender or say a word. They came on wanting to finish her as quick as they could and take care of the priestess. "I'm going to die," Sakura realized with a sudden clarity. All those book smarts she prided herself on, all the good looks that were so important to her, none of them mattered now. She was too weak, and now she was going to pay for it. "Stop!" A voice screamed from the door. Before her eyes there was an orange blur. Just as the two men were turning to face their new attacker, she saw a glint of steel. She stood there and just watched as Naruto slammed one kunai into the side of a man's throat all the way to the handle. In the same instant the kunai in his other hand went into the side of the other man's skull with an audible, junk sound that was exactly like when a kunai went into a wooden training post. The man with the kunai in his head dropped to the floor and jerked and flopped around like a fish until he went still. The one with the knife through his throat dropped his sword and clutched at his bleeding throat. Naruto pulled out another kunai and viciously began stabbing the man in his chest. He didn't just stab him once, or twice, he stabbed him and stabbed him and stabbed him. Even after 15 of so, with him lying motionless on the floor in an expanding pool of blood, he kept right on stabbing, a huge smile on his face, his eyes alive and filled with an immense joy. "Stop it!" Izuku screamed. "Naruto, for the love of Kami, stop!" Hearing Izuku scream, Naruto jerked to a halt with the kunai halfway down to another stab. He looked and saw the horror on Izuku's face. His own face and clothes were spattered in blood. His weapon and his right hand were drenched in it. The smile and the look of excitement faded. Naruto refused to break eye contact with her. "I did what I had to." As if coming out of a daze, he looked around the shrine and hurried over to Sakura. He pulled out some gauze from one of his pouches and bound up her wound. Izuku kept a fearful distance and never took her eyes off of him. The fight lasted roughly 5 minutes. The final outcome was never really in doubt. When Kakashi entered the shrine and saw what was there, he cursed himself for letting his guard down. He'd been confident that he and the two boys would be more than a match for 100 civilians. Because of that confidence, he had very nearly lost both one of his students and their client. "Naruto-kun saved my life, and Izuku's too," Sakura said. Kakashi nodded. I'm proud of you, Naruto, you did exactly what any good ninja should. Your use of deadly force was proper and necessary. You defended your comrade and your client. When we get back I'll put in a special commendation in your file. Kakashi decided not to mention the fact that one of the men killed had obviously been savaged beyond any possible need. Ninja had to be willing to kill without hesitation, but to commit such butchery suggested a violent and uncontrolled nature. That was extremely troubling, but this was not the time to try and deal with it. Thanks, Sensei, Naruto replied and turned a gentle gaze to Sakura, who was lying on a mat. I'm just glad I got here in time to help Sakura-chan and S.H. Izuku. You're worthless, Sakura. S.H. Izuku almost died because you couldn't even handle 2 civilians. You call yourself a ninja? The first time we go against other ninja you'll be dead in 30 seconds. Seeing the look of concern in Naruto's expression, Sakura smiled back warmly. Sasuke had not realized he'd activated his Sharingan until Kakashi told him. Kakashi had promised to begin training him in its use as soon as they got back to Konoha. Sasuke wasn't sure what a non-Uchiha could show him about it, but he would take whatever instruction he could get. When he had entered the shrine with Kakashi, he'd been surprised to find the 2 corpses there and Sakura lying wounded. He'd assumed he'd be the first to score a kill on the team, but Naruto had beaten him to it. Sasuke had sent Naruto one single respectful nod. Surprised, Naruto had shyly nodded back, understanding. It looked like Naruto really had grown up since the academy. He was obviously a much stronger ninja than poor Sakura. He was willing to admit that the dobe was deserving of some respect. But while he respected what Naruto had done, he had no doubts about his own continued superiority. If not for Kakashi's order, he could have had a dozen kills, and now that his Sharingan was active he would only grow more and more powerful. As Kakashi watched over Sakura, Naruto quietly approached S.H. Izuku. She eyed him with worry but did not turn away or try to leave. Do you not like me anymore? Naruto asked directly, his voice low to keep his words just for her. The 8-year-old girl looked up at him. His face and clothes were still bloody. The bodies were still lying on the floor. The shrine had been desecrated. Whoever became the next priestess would have to spend weeks performing purification rituals. I still like you, Nisan, she said just as quietly. And for saving me and Sakura I thank you. But, you. Her voice began to shake. I killed, he said. I did what I had to. You heard Kakashi-sensei, it was what any ninja would do. I'm even getting a commendation for it. There was nothing wrong in what I did. But you killed. Those men are dead now. Don't you feel any sorrow? Any regret? No, they'd have killed you and Sakura without a second thought. When it's us or them, I chose them. How can you be so cruel? She asked sadly. It's cruel world out there, he told her. Maybe you didn't notice because you've been stuck in a shrine all this time. The men who came here all wanted to kill you. I did what I had to, my team did what we had to. Would it have been better if we hadn't? She looked down. Maybe, she said so very softly. It hurts me to think I am the cause of all this. Don't say that, Shizuku-chan. None of this is your fault. The only people to blame are the people who want to kill you. Don't start blaming yourself for something that isn't your fault. She looked up at him. Why do you care so much, Naruto? Because you're a friend. He nearly wailed. Except for one other person, you are the only one to be really kind to me. You've become a precious person to me and I would do anything to protect you. And a slight smile appeared. Thank you, Nisan, that means a lot to me. Sorry to interrupt, Kakashi said and joined them. There is something we need to discuss. He was looking at S.H. Izuku. What is it, Kakashi-san? I think it would be best if we were to all leave here now. You can return with us to Konoha. Leave? S.H. Izuku said, startled. But I am the priestess of the spring, I have a duty to perform. Besides, this is my home. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the only duty you have here is to be sacrificed. There is something you need to know. Flashback. Jibo was coughing up water. Ple, please no more, I'll tell you whatever you want. Kakashi nodded. All right, first thing, how many people are in your organization? About half the village, Jibo said. If you'd like to go for another swim. Kakashi let the rope slip and bit and Jibo jerked towards the water. It's the truth, I swear. Jibo cried. I started with a few people, no one really knows who. But over time more and more people joined. About half the village knows, including the whole police force. We do what is necessary for the village to thrive. If we don't come back tomorrow, you'll be facing a lot more men who will be ready to do whatever they have to. Kakashi got an uneasy feeling. He believed him. If that's really true, then why did Binya send for us? The mayor is part of the half that doesn't know. The people who aren't part of it have no idea who is or how many we are. Binya didn't know who he could trust, so he just acted on his own as mayor, using village funds to hire all of you. So what you're saying is that roughly about 30,000 people are a part of this conspiracy. Jibo nodded. And all of us are committed to doing whatever it takes. So you can see our problem, Kakashi said. I decided to stay here to see what sort of response we would get when the original 5 men didn't return. Given what we faced, I'd say we really are up against a massive number of people. Ninja can do a lot, but even with me here the 4 of us cannot face thousands. The only way we can ensure your safety is to take you away from here. I am sorry, Kakashi-san, but I cannot do that. Whatever the danger, I have a sacred duty to perform. I cannot abandon it. I will not abandon it. You do understand that if you stay here I cannot guarantee your safety. If you and your team wish to leave, Kakashi-san, I will not blame you. But I cannot go. If you're staying, then we're staying too. Right, sensei? Naruto said. Though he looked pained, Kakashi nodded. I will do everything in my power to protect you and carry out my mission. That is the way of the village hidden within the leaf. If we make it out of here, I am definitely getting some hazard pay for this. Chapter 11, For the Good of the Village. Well, if you're determined to stay, there are some things we'll need to take care of. Sakura, you just relax. Naruto and Sasuke, come with me. What are we doing? Sasuke asked. We're going outside and break some kneecaps, Kakashi said. Everyone in the room looked at him. Are you serious? Sasuke asked. Counting the men from last night, we have 103 prisoners, Kakashi said. There's no way for us to handle so many. Under normal circumstances we would just hand them over to the local authorities, but that obviously won't work here. Why don't we just kill them? Naruto asked. Izuku gasped. Naruto? Sakura and Sasuke both looked at him in surprise. Kakashi was looking over at him too, but not in surprise. What worried Kakashi most wasn't that Naruto had suggested it, but rather the way he had suggested it. Not with passionate anger in his voice, but with an ordinary tone. He was just offering an answer to a problem, nothing more. There are times when we do that, Naruto, Kakashi said. He was speaking to all of them. In certain situations you will have to kill prisoners, but that is only when circumstances force us to. As a general rule, we don't massacre helpless men, even if they are enemies. Then what's the point in breaking kneecaps? Naruto asked. If we break one kneecap, they will still be able to make it back to Hikto, even if they have to lean on one another or crawl all the way there. And who knows? Maybe the sight will be enough to convince the others to leave us alone. Though I doubt it. Kakashi-san. Please don't hurt these men further. Izuku cried. Just let them go. Kakashi shook his head. If I did that, they'd just come back and attack us again with their friends. If they're lame, they won't be any further threat. What we're doing is a mercy. It's either this or what Naruto suggested. The 3 ninja went outside, and in short order there was a loud series of shouts and cries. Izuku knelt down in a corner and prayed, trying to ignore the sounds. Sakura lay there also listening. This is a part of what it means to be ninja, hurting people because it's a part of the mission. She tossed off her blanket and got up. Sakura-chan, where are you going? My left arm works just fine, she said. If this is something that needs to be done, I'm going to help my team. Sakura didn't realize it, but this was a first for her. For the very first time she was about to act as a ninja without caring what Sasuke thought. When they were done with their task, Kakashi told all of them to leave their weapons and just go. Despite much pain and difficulty, the men wasted no time in stumbling and shambling away as fast as they physically could. The two dead men were buried in the nearby forest. Izuku prayed for their souls and for Kami's forgiveness. In the shrine she insisted on wiping the blood up alone. As priestess it was her duty to purify the shrine of the violence that had tainted it. The rest of that day and night passed quietly. Naruto kept a large number of his clones surrounding the nearby woods. They each took turns staying up for guard duty, with Kakashi only getting 4 hours sleep. Sakura insisted that she take a turn as well, and Kakashi agreed. The sun rose on the third and final day of the festival. That morning a single visitor approached the shrine. He was met on the way there by Kakashi. "I can't say I'm surprised to see you here," Kakashi noted. "Let me guess, you're here to try and talk us into leaving." Binya cast his eyes down nervously. "I am so sorry about all this. I never knew how many." "I know," Kakashi said. "I believe that when you hired us it was in good faith, that you thought there was a small conspiracy involved." Binya slowly nodded. "Turns out it wasn't so small." "Yeah. I am very sorry, but you and your team should go," Binya told him. "You will be paid the full amount. As your client I am releasing you from out agreement." "I'm afraid we can't go," Kakashi said. "We came here to protect that little girl until the end of the festival. We will stay until that duty is complete." But I'm the client and I'm telling you to go." "You're obviously being forced to. Orders made while under duress don't count." The mayor's jaw fell open. "Don't you understand what will happen if you don't go?" "I've got a pretty good idea." Then why?" Kakashi looked straight at the man with his single eye. "To abandon your duty is not courageous, below the courageous there is nothing." These were the words of the former Hokage and my beloved sensei. That is the way of the shinobi. Binya had no answer for that. In the end he turned around and went back. Izuku was kneeling before the two fresh graves speaking prayers. "Why are you praying for people who wanted to kill you?" Naruto asked. "All life is sacred to me, Nissan. I would pray for anyone who had passed that they would find peace in the next world. I'd let them rot in hell, it's what they deserve." "Don't say that." Izuku looked over to him. "Please don't say such terrible things." "Why not?" "It's the truth," Naruto said. "They wanted to kill you, Izuku, just to appease the earth spirits or Kami or whatever. You didn't matter to them, they just wanted to murder you for their own selfish reasons. They don't deserve your prayers. You should hate them." "No," she said. "I would never hate them. Even if they did want to kill me I have already forgiven them." "Why?" "Excuse me. Why would you forgive them?" In his mind he saw all those angry faces that had tormented him. He remembered the cruel words, the beatings, the threats. What he couldn't remember was a single person, not one, ever asking him for forgiveness. No one was ever sorry for hurting him or making him feel like a freak. "I forgive them because it's the right thing to do," she answered simply. "We're all human and we all need to be forgiven sometimes." "No, you're wrong," Naruto shook his head vehemently. "The people who hurt you don't deserve to be forgiven. They didn't make a mistake, they didn't come here yesterday by accident. They knew exactly what they were doing. People like that don't deserve any forgiveness." "Naruto, do you say that because you are a ninja, or for another reason?" "I say it because I've had people hurt me all of my life. And it was because of something that was never my fault. If people have hurt you, Nissan, then you need to forgive them, as much for your sake as for theirs. Holding on to hate, keeping grudges, all that will do is blacken your heart. I'm a ninja, not a priest, Izuku. You're human, Naruto, and you have a good heart. You care about me more than anyone else, even though we've only just met. You wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't a good person. I don't want you to change because of hatred. Shizuku-chan, there are things you don't know about me, terrible things. I'm not as nice as you might think." "I don't believe that, Nissan," she said with a gentle smile. "I think you have a kind heart, but please don't let it become tainted." "What if it's already tainted?" he asked quietly. "Then all you have to do is let go of your hates and the taint will disappear." "You make it sound easy." "It is easy, Nissan," she said. "To forgive someone is the easiest thing there is. Maybe for you." He smiled and seemed to silently agree. As the sun went down, Kakashi gathered his team outside the shrine. It will happen tonight, he told them. If they come, we won't be holding back, fight to the extreme limit and show no mercy no matter who your opponent may be. Why the change? Sasuke asked curiously. The odds are different, Kakashi said. Facing 100 we could afford to be more careful. If we really are up against thousands though, we have no choice but to be ruthless if we want to survive. That's fine by me, Naruto said. Me too, Sasuke said, an eager smirk on his face. Me too, Sakura said. Her right shoulder was heavily bandaged and her right arm all but useless. But she was ready to fight and do her duty. They all were. I'm very proud of all three of you, Kakashi told them. No matter what happens tonight, all of you have performed like true ninja. All three students stood just a little taller. Now one more thing, if you hear me give the order to retreat, or if I should be killed, I want all of you to get out and make it back to the village as fast as you can. But. No buts. If I go down or if I give you the order, you run. That clear? Sasuke and Sakura nodded. What about Sh Izuku? Naruto asked. Sh Izuku has made her choice, we should respect it. I won't leave her behind, Naruto declared. I'll save her no matter what. Even if she doesn't want to be saved. That's right. Even if she ends up getting mad at me, I'll still save her. The door to the shrine was opened a crack and Sh Izuku was listening. It was nearly 10 p.m. They're coming. Naruto said. How many? Kakashi asked quietly. More than I can count, Naruto replied. Kakashi nodded. It was what he'd expected. Without ninja of their own, the only advantage their enemies really had was numbers. Naruto had made 200 Kagabun's and they were hidden in the trees all around. He, Sasuke, and Naruto would face them on the ground. Sakura was sitting up on the shrine roof with a huge pile of kunai given to her by Naruto's shadow clones. Given her condition, she would give the best service there. He had already chosen several powerful area effect jutsus that would cut a swath through any mass. If they wanted the girl, he would make them pay a very high price. But, if there really were tens of thousands and they really were ready to do whatever it took, he knew they couldn't stop them all. There were limits to what he could do with his chakra and what Naruto could do with shadow clones. Their best hope for success was that the crowd would break and run when they saw what they were up against. They were only civilians after all, few if any of them would be hardened to the sudden and brutal death they would see. If they really were willing to pay the price though, stopping all of them would be like trying to stop the tide. Jibo had exaggerated a bit. Only about 1/6 of the people were a part of this. Which meant only 10,000 came out. They came silently all through the wood from every direction, surrounding them and cutting them off. Most of them were dressed up in yukatas or other fancy clothes. A few of them carried clubs and other weapons, but the majority seemed to be unarmed. There were men and women ranging from teenage years to grandparents. Their calm faces looked steady as they approached with a slow certain pace out of the forest and on towards the shrine. They came to an abrupt halt about 50 yards away when a wave of kunai flew down at their feet, making a perfect circle around the shrine. That's far enough, Kakashi called out. Anyone who takes one step further dies. A slight murmur went through the crowd, but no one turned away. A single woman in a navy blue yukata spoke up. She had long black hair and brown eyes. I wish to speak to Sh Izuku, I am her mother. Mama. The door to the shrine opened and Sh Izuku ran out. Mama. Wait. Naruto grabbed her arm to keep her from running out to her mother. Nissan. Let me go. I want to be with Mama. Mama. You can't. Don't you get it? She wants to kill you too. Naruto glared at the woman. Isn't that right? You've come here to kill your own daughter. Don't say that. Mama loves me. She would never do that. Sh Izuku looked at her. Isn't that right, Mama? Tears slowly ran down the woman's face and she turned away, unable to bear looking at her only child. I'm so sorry. Mama. We drew lots, the woman said as she tried to choke back her tears. All the mothers with daughters the right age. I never wanted this for you, I love you darling. Mama loves you with all her heart. You love her but you want to help everyone kill her. Naruto shouted. What kind of fucked up love is that? You don't understand, the woman cried. No one here wants this. But it's for the good of the village. A couple people beside her put their arms around her and tried to comfort her. Nearby a small man stepped forward, the crowd parted around him. It is true, no one wants this. An old man with grey whiskers spoke. He wore a loose-fitting monk's robe and held a staff in one hand. But sadly it is necessary. Daisuke-sama. S.H. Izuku called. Hello S.H. Izuku, the man bowed his head to her. S.H. Izuku, do you understand what is about to happen here? Excuse me, Kakashi called politely. Who are you? Me? I am just an old man. He is Daisuke-sama, S.H. Izuku said. He was born here but spent 40 years traveling all over the world to gain knowledge. He came back 7 years ago at a time of crisis for the village. All the villagers say he brought us good fortune, that Kami showed us favor because he was a holy man. 7 years ago? Kakashi asked suspiciously. You mean right around the time the first priestess was killed? Daisuke nodded. Yes, for you see, along with spiritual matters I studied many other things as well during my travels. Including how to forge contracts with beings from other realms. Like earth spirits. Kakashi asked. Yes, exactly. Naruto let go of S.H. Izuku's arm and glared at the monk. What the hell are you talking about? What has this got to do with anything? There are all sorts of powerful beings who while not of the earth have contact with it. With some you can make bargains. Kakashi said. For instance I have a contract with the dogs. We made a pact by which some of them will come and serve me in exchange for some of my blood. The monk nodded. Animal summons are only one of the many types of beings who exist. There are also spirits of the earth, air, and water with great powers over those elements. When I returned here from my journeys I found the village was dying. People were moving away and giving up on the farms their families had worked for generations. I knew I had to do something to save the village, and so I made a contract with an earth spirit. If we offered up the blood on an innocent and pure child the lands of the village would be fertile and bountiful for the coming year. One innocent life in exchange for the prosperity and survival of your village. Is that such a bad bargain? It is for her. Naruto screamed. She had nothing to do with this. She didn't get a choice. She only gets her one life, why should she have to sacrifice it for the rest of you? I thought a ninja would understand, Daisuke said. Wouldn't you give your life to protect your village? It's not the same. I chose to become a ninja. The very first lesson they teach you at the academy is that a ninja must be ready to die at any time. I've always known what might happen to me and I'm fine with it because I chose this. But what choice did you give her? Huh? Her mother drew lots and so she has to die? Yeah, it's a great bargain for the rest of you. Why should she have to die for all of you when it's not even her choice? She has a choice now though doesn't she? Daisuke asked. He turned his focus to her. You know what will happen now. The people here will try to fulfill the terms of the contract and the ninja will cut us down. I will die, your mother will die. Then more of us will come forward and be killed. How many hundreds, how many thousands will die? How much will the village suffer if we anger the earth spirit by breaking our contract? Is your life more precious? Will you allow all this bloodshed and suffering to happen for your sake? No, she said. No, I couldn't bear that. She reached into her pocket and took out the object that Naruto had given her. I suppose this is my karma. Naruto. He turned from the monk to look at the girl standing a few steps behind him. He froze. She was holding his kunai to her own throat. S.H. Izuku don't. Please forgive them Naruto, and don't let this darken your heart. She gave him a sad smile. I really wish you could have been my Nissan. With both hands she slashed her throat making the blood splurt. No. Naruto grabbed the kunai and threw it away, but it was too late. No. Why? They don't deserve this. He held her up with one arm and pressed a hand to her throat trying to stem the flow of blood. She was looking at him and seemed unafraid. She reached up and patted his hand and smiled. He could do nothing but watch as the light left her eyes. She was a very brave child, Daisuke said. She will be missed. Naruto gently laid her down on the grass. Shut up. Kakashi gasped as he felt a demonic presence and immense power fill the air. His students and all the people in the crowd felt it as well, a terrible evil hovering above them. They however had no idea what the source of it was. Has the seal broken? Kakashi wondered. Naruto was surrounded by a red aura, demonic chakra so strong it was visible. He was close enough to see the transformation, his eyes were red, the scars on his cheeks had thickened, and his hands had become claws. I'm going to kill you. And matching actions to words he dashed across the 50 yards separating him from the monk in the blink of an eye. Daisuke saw a demon's face and tried to cry for mercy. Naruto's fist struck his chest and went through his heart and then out his back. The old man fell over dead without even the chance to cry out. People screamed and the entire crowd panicked, terrified they were about to be killed next. Pushing and shoving they got away from there as fast as they could. Naruto let them go. He was busy tearing apart the old monk's robes until he found what he was looking for. When he stood up he noticed Kakashi and the others all staring at him. He could smell fear coming off all three of them, the strongest from Kakashi. That figures, I guess. He's the only one who knows what I am. Hey sensei, if you destroy a contract that destroys the bargain too, right? Yes, it does. With a thought the paper in his hands burst into flame. When that was done he turned his head into the breeze. The night air reeked with delicious of terror. I'm going to kill every last one of them. Naruto, Kakashi said warily. I need you to calm down now, it's over. It's not over until they're all dead. Is that what she would have wanted? Kakashi asked. Given the power levels he was sensing right now, Kakashi wasn't at all sure he could stop Naruto. But if he was serious about massacring the villagers he would have to try. Naruto looked over to where she was lying on the ground. To Kakashi's immense relief he could feel the power and demonic presence fade away. As he watched Naruto's transformation reversed and he became himself again. No, Naruto said. She would want me to forgive them and let them all live. Well. I'll let them live. I couldn't keep my promise. I am so sorry, Shizuku-chan. Something in Naruto died that night. From that time on he would never again open his heart. Chapter 12, The Shy Princess. Naruto was standing alone over a freshly dug grave. When it had all ended he'd taken her deep into the woods and buried her beneath an oak tree. He doubted the villagers would ever find her grave. He wouldn't give them the chance to play hypocrites one last time. He wouldn't have them give her a funeral procession filled with false tears and pretend grief. What they had done had been the worst sort of betrayal. None of them had cared about her. Not even her own mother. All that had mattered to them was how her death would benefit them. You were wrong, Shizuku-chan, it wasn't karma, it was just the selfish desires of your own people. Naruto thought bitterly. You should never have sacrificed yourself for them, they weren't worth it. There was a stir in the air. He took a deep breath and picked up a familiar scent. Hey Sasuke! The boy leapt down to his side. Didn't realize you'd spotted me. The sun's up, Naruto, you've been here all night. We need to have breakfast and then we're leaving. Naruto looked up at the clear blue sky. Yeah, I guess it's time for me to go. He cast his eyes back down at the freshly turned earth. He'd placed a few flowers. Goodbye Shizuku-chan, I'm sorry. That was all the memorial service the young priestess would ever have. Come on, let's go. Naruto leapt away with Sasuke at his side. Flashback. With his demonic power gone, Naruto walked over to Izuku's body, ignoring the questioning looks from his teammates and sensei. Gently, oh so gently, he closed her eyes and picked her up bridal style in his arms. He looked over at Kakashi. I'm going to bury her. It was not a request. We'll be leaving early tomorrow, just keep that in mind. After what he'd just seen he knew he had to handle Naruto very carefully. Right, he acknowledged and leapt away. As soon as he was gone Sasuke spoke. What the hell just happened? How did Naruto get that kind of power? It wasn't just power, Sakura said worriedly. It felt evil, like Naruto-kun was turning into some kind of monster. She'd come to really care for him and wanted him to be alright. You have no idea how close to the truth you are, Sakura. Kakashi thought. Alright, first off, everything that happened on this mission is off the books. Once I report to the Hokage, I don't doubt he'll declare all of this an S-rank secret. That means once we return to the village, you are not to share anything about this with anyone. The punishment for revealing sealed information is death. Am I clear? He waited for them both to nod. Now as for the power Naruto displayed, I am afraid I can't go into that. He saw Sasuke open his mouth and wagged a finger at him. The matter is also an S-rank secret, so I really can't discuss it. But sensei, we're Naruto's teammates, Sakura argued. If it affects him, it affects us too. Don't we have a right to know? The short answer to that would be, no, Sakura. Some secrets have to be kept even between teammates. If Naruto wants to tell you someday, that's fine, but please don't try and pursue this matter. Just accept that Naruto is not like other ninja. Try and think of his ability as a special ace in the whole, something no other team has. That was certainly true, and also the most positive spin he could put on it. I will definitely need to have a long talk with the Hokage about this. In any case, let's get the monk buried and set up a watch schedule. I have a feeling Naruto won't be coming back before morning. Heading back to the shrine, Naruto was caught off guard when Sasuke spoke. I'm sorry for your loss. Naruto looked over at him in surprise. Thanks. Can I ask you something? What? When you killed the monk, you avenged her. How did it make you feel? Sasuke asked him. What are you talking about? When you got your revenge, did you feel satisfied? Naruto thought about it as they continued to leap through the trees. Right when I killed him, yeah, I was happy about it. I would have been even more happy if I could have killed all the rest too. But later, after I buried her, all I felt was sorrow that she was gone. He let out a sigh. Even if I'd waded in blood, I don't think it would have made the hurt any less. Does that mean you regret killing him? Hell no. Naruto shouted. It may not be much, but it's still something. If I'm going to miss her no matter what, I may as well get that little bit of satisfaction. Is that all it is? Sasuke asked. A little bit of satisfaction. Naruto looked over at him and flashed him a winning smile. It's better than nothing, right? I guess, Sasuke answered, but appeared troubled. By the time the two of them returned for breakfast, Naruto had his mask screwed on firmly in place. When Sakura showed him her concern, he thanked her for it and assured her he was all right. Everyone avoided the topic of what he had done last night, and he certainly didn't bring it up. As they ate, a young boy arrived with an envelope containing a message from the mayor along with their mission payment. Binya thanks us for our efforts and has included a generous bonus as well as words of praise for the Hokage to read, Kakashi said in a dull voice. He also says he hopes all matters have now been settled. How nice of him. Gutless coward, Naruto muttered. When he saw Sakura look over worried, he plastered on a smile. Just kidding. Well, we're done here, Kakashi said and put the message away. Finish up breakfast and we'll head back home. Mercifully, the trip back to the village was uneventful. You three can have the next 2 days off, you've earned it. Kakashi told them. Sakura, get to the hospital and have your wound properly looked at by a medic nin. I'll report into the tower. He had already given each of them their share of the mission fee. Hey Naruto, Sakura said. You want to get some ramen with me? She waved her share of the money around in her left hand, her entire right arm was still sore. My treat. Don't you need to go to the hospital, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked. There's no rush, I can do it after we eat. Okay, I never turn down free food. She looked over a bit nervously at Sasuke. He's actually been rather nice to her since she'd gotten hurt. I don't suppose you'd want to join us, Sasuke-kun? He thought about it for a moment. Sure, he answered. Really? Sakura said. Sasuke gave a slight nod. You two are my teammates after all, you're both important to me. Did you hear that, Sakura-chan? Sasuke-kun's human after all. Before Sasuke realized what the blonde was up to, he'd put an arm around his shoulders and was disturbingly close. You love us, don't you, Sasuke-kun? Don't touch me. Maybe being all alone isn't so bad after all. Sasuke thought. Walking through the streets, it was not long before Naruto saw all the ugly glares again. Huh, welcome home, nice to know some things never change. He was surprised at how much harder they were to ignore. After a week of being treated like a human being, he now found it hard to accept being everyone's scapegoat again. For a second he imagined how the village would react if they heard he'd given his life for them. In his mind's eye he saw civilians and ninja alike suddenly burst into cheering with spontaneous shouts of joy and fireworks overhead. Fuck that. He thought murderously. Like I'd ever lay down my life for such an ungrateful bunch. They all just want to use me, well just wait and see. One day I'll use all of you. And I'll treat you every bit as sweetly as you've all treated me. Walking along he picked out a familiar scent. Sure enough, he spotted the person crossing the street up ahead. Seeing her, a wicked thought occurred to him. He could have a little bit of fun and maybe set something up for the future. Walking faster he left his teammates and momentarily disappeared into the crowd of passers-by. Hey Naruto, wait up. Sakura called after him. What's that dope up to now? Hinata was walking along with her teammates towards training ground 17 where Kurenai would meet them. She was dressed in dark pants and a dark shirt hidden beneath a bulky beige jacket. Kiba was talking to Akamaru about how hard they would train today and about what an awesome team they would be. The little white dog riding on top of his head barked his approval. Shino was walking along in his usual disinterested silence. She walked between the two of them and a couple steps behind. As always, she worried that her weakness was holding her teammates back and was disappointing her sensei. Those were her thoughts when she felt a light tap on her shoulder. Instinctively she turned, and found a smiling blonde face planted just a couple inches from her own. Hey there. Naruto said. Naruto-kun. She blurted out and jumped back. Having him get so close out of the blue, her face was turning beet red and her heart was racing. Seeing her reaction, he frowned and put on some big sad puppy dog eyes. Ah, what's the matter, Hinata-chan? Not happy to see me? Did he just call me Hinata-chan? She thought with wonder. Despite having had a crush on him for the entire academy, they had only ever spoken to each other maybe a dozen times. She had always lacked the courage to approach him, and he had never been interested in talking to nay girl but Sakura. Having him so close, it was taking all of her effort just not to faint. Standing there, he was bombarded by sense of panic, anxiety, hope, and attraction all coming off of her. He could of course see how red her face was and the way she was pressing her index fingers together. It was just too obvious that the girl had strong feelings but didn't know how to express them. Was she always like this? How could I not have noticed? Was I really that blind back then? Despite her timid appearance, Hinata was the heir of the Hyuga clan, one of the most influential and wealthy in Konoha. She was the closest thing the village had to a princess. In the same way the villagers all despised him for something he had no power over, they all honored and respected her simply because of her birth. What could possibly be sweeter than forcing all the villagers to see their Hyuga princess chase after him like a pathetic fangirl? This'll be even more fun than painting the Hokage monument. With a simple expertise, he rubbed the back of his head while offering her a humble facade. I guess a cute girl like you wouldn't want to talk to a guy like me, huh? Cute. Did Naruto-kun just call me cute? Wait, I haven't said anything to him. I'm just standing here like a mute. Ack. I need to say something before he thinks I don't like him. You think I'm cute? Sure. I'm sorry I never said anything before, but I guess I only had eyes for Sakura up until now. But now I think Hinata-chan is definitely the #1 cute girl. She just couldn't believe Naruto was saying that. She'd longed for him to give her any sort of notice. To hear him say such sweet things about her. Hey! Naruto shouted as she pitched over unconscious. Fortunately both Kiba and Shino were there to catch her. It was as if they had expected this to happen. Nice going, Romeo, Kiba said with a mocking grin. Naruto, please exercise greater care when speaking to our teammate, Shino said in a dull monotone. Naruto, what did you do? Sakura demanded as she and Sasuke joined the scene. Nothing, I swear. All I did was talk to her. What did you say? Sakura asked. Nothing much, I just told her she was really cute. Kiba snorted. Yeah, and then she went out like a light. It was to be expected, Shino said. Sakura looked excited and very pleased. Even Sasuke looked a little amused. I'm so happy for you, Naruto-kun, Sakura said. Took you long enough, Dobe, Sasuke said. Naruto looked at all their faces. Wait a second, was it really that obvious she liked me? All four of them burst into such loud laughter that people passing by stopped to stare. I see, Sarutobi replied gravely. Kakashi had just finished giving him an oral summary of the mission. The details of the mission will have to be made an S-rank secret. That Naruto can already access the Kyuubi's power is disturbing, though I suppose it was inevitable at some point. The Hokage looked closely at Kakashi. Do you wish to keep him on active duty? Kakashi nodded, he'd had 2 full days to think about it. I do, Hokage-sama, given what he saw I don't really blame him for his actions. And when I spoke to him he acknowledged me and kept enough discipline to stop before things got out of hand. I do not consider him a danger to himself or to his comrades, at least not at this time. Have you inspected the seal? Yes, Hokage-sama, on the first night after leaving. So far as I can tell the seal is intact. Though of course I am no seal master. I will have to summon an expert to examine him, Sarutobi said. In the meantime I want you to help Naruto with his chakra control and instruct him in whatever jutsus you think fitting. Given what he has endured, I think it would be wise to keep him busy and help him gain better self-control for the future. Actually, Sasuke has just activated his Sharingan, I'll need to spend time helping him master the use of it. Then I expect you will be very busy instructing all your students, Kakashi. I have faith you will not let me down. Sarutobi spoke without an ounce of sympathy. Heh, of course, Hokage-sama. Looks like I'm going to be bust for a while, I may even have to cut back on my reading. Good, the Chunin exams are coming up soon. Cut back on the number of missions and concentrate on pure training instead. I never said I was going to recommend them for the exams. The Hokage looked at him in surprise. So you don't plan to put your team forward? Oh no, I do, Kakashi said pleasantly. I just hadn't said so yet. Chapter 13, Preparations. Kakashi was happy. In the 4 weeks since returning from their tragic mission he'd been kept extremely busy. Team 7 had only performed a handful of minor D-ranks in that time. The time had instead been spent giving his kids a crash course in useful ninja abilities to ready them for the Chunin exams. Flashback. Here you are, Kakashi said with a grin as he handed out forms to his students. What are these? Sasuke asked. They're entry forms for the Chunin exams that will be starting in a week's time. Kakashi told them. Despite my better judgment, I've decided to nominate the 3 of you. Naruto looked at the entry form eagerly. Sensei, I take back most of the bad things I've said about you. Great. I can impress the old man and take a step toward becoming Hokage. Me too, Sakura said. My opinion hasn't changed, Sasuke said. But he also looked very interested as he read over the form. Gee, thanks, Kakashi said. Participation in the exams is strictly voluntary. If you choose not to take part, it will not be held against you in any way. Huh? Did you say something? Naruto looked up. He had a pen in hand and was already filling out his form. Sakura and Sasuke were doing the same. Don't you want to take a little time to think it over before you decide? Kakashi asked. It's very rare for rookie squads to be invited to attend, though I expect multiple squads will this year. These exams will include elite ninja from all over the elemental lands. The competition will be fierce and the danger considerable. The competition can be cutthroat, literally. That's exactly what I want. Naruto said. I want to face serious opposition so I can prove to everyone how strong I am, especially to the old man. I agree, Sasuke said. The only way to really find out if you're strong is by going up against the best. I want to see how I measure up. Sasuke and Naruto looked at one another and nodded. They understood each other perfectly. I know I'm not as strong as my teammates, Sakura admitted. But I want to get stronger so I can stand at their side when they need me. If this will help me get stronger, then I'm joining too. Kakashi smiled at them from beneath his mask. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. It sounds like each of you wants to participate for the right reasons. Hold on to those forms and deliver them to room 301 of the Academy in a month's time. The other teams from Konoha who will participate haven't been nominated yet, so don't tell anyone that you have. For the next month we won't be doing many missions. I will instead concentrate on preparing you for the exams. You mean you're actually going to train us? Sasuke asked suspiciously. I bet the old man is making him do it, Naruto said with a laugh. Probably, Sasuke agreed. Kakashi's sweat dropped. I'm losing a lot of face again. Though it had been tiring, he had done his best for them. They had all been taught the tree and water walking techniques as well as how to dispel a genjutsu. With Sasuke, Kakashi concentrated on giving him advice on using his Sharingan. Sasuke had managed to gain 2 Tomo immediately upon activation. That meant Sasuke was capable of predicting and copying enemy moves and jutsus whenever the Sharingan was active. And unlike Kakashi, because Sasuke was an Uchiha, he could activate his Sharingan and use it for long periods without depleting his chakra. Because Sasuke could learn jutsus almost instantly now, Kakashi showed him several fire-based jutsus that he thought would be especially useful. He was careful not to show him any that would drain away too much chakra in a single use. That would wait until he had more experience and had built up his reserves further. Which meant no Chidori or Kage Bunshin. Naruto had vast reserves of chakra but needed time to learn new jutsus. He'd gone ahead and used chakra paper to discover he was a wind type and that Sasuke was a fire type, no surprise there, and Sakura was a water type. He'd shown Naruto 2 wind-based jutsus, 1 offensive and 1 defensive. He'd helped him improve his taijutsu and then had him spar with clones to get the new moves down. He'd also show him the leaf exercise to help him improve his chakra control. Sakura had by far the smallest chakra reserves and the best chakra control of any of his students. She'd gotten the tree walking exercise down on the first try and water walking down after just 3. While very intelligent, she was not physically powerful or blessed with any single outstanding talent. Given her mix of strengths and weaknesses, Kakashi had decided that she would be best suited to using genjutsu to fight opponents at long range. Kakashi was no genjutsu specialist but had picked some up among the over 1,000 jutsu he knew. He taught her the basic principle and gave her 2 low-level genjutsus. When there was more time, he would talk to Kurenai and see if he could get some help. Kakashi was happy. Not only because his students were shaping up so well, but because they were actually becoming a real team. Along with learning individual skills, he'd watched as each member had offered help to the others. Sakura had given suggestions about tree and water walking. Naruto had offered to spar with the others using clones to help them with their taijutsu. Sasuke had offered advice on learning jutsus. When he had first gotten them, he had wondered if it was even possible to weld them together into an effective unit. But after their tragic mission, all of them had returned with a better idea of what it meant to be ninja, and with an appreciation for each other. Despite his continued concern for Naruto and Sasuke, he was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, the 3 of them might become something very special. Alright team, that's enough for today, Kakashi called. Wha? You're ending the session now? Naruto asked. They would normally go until it started to get dark. From the position of the sun, it wasn't even noon yet. The exams begin tomorrow at 4 p.m., Kakashi told them. Take the rest of the day and relax, the exams will be grueling no matter how they are set up. I'll meet you there tomorrow. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves. Naruto looked over at his 2 teammates. You guys want to get something to eat? Sure. Sakura said. Fine, Sasuke said. At the end of most practices, they had gotten into the habit of eating together. Ichiraku's was becoming a second home to them. The village is full of foreign ninja, Ayame said. It's very exciting. None of them ever eat here though, Teiuchi complained from the kitchen. When the finals are held, there will be a lot of visitors in town, Ayame said cheerfully. I'm sure business will pick up then. She looked at the 3 of them. Are all of you excited about tomorrow? You bet. Naruto said. Tomorrow we'll amaze everyone with our awesome abilities. It won't be that easy, Dobe, Sasuke told him with a slight smirk. We're going up against the best of the best. It'll be hard. I don't care how hard it is, Naruto declared. I will definitely be number 1 at the end. But I'll let you be number 2. Well, that's nice of you, Dobe. Think nothing of it, Teme, Naruto said with an exaggerated nod of his head, like the fire daimyo granting some small favor. Sasuke looked slightly annoyed while Sakura burst out laughing. Not so long ago, hearing Naruto say something like that to Sasuke-kun would have royally pissed her off. Now it only made her laugh. She'd come to appreciate Naruto's abilities and see him as a real friend, someone who mattered to her. And while she cared a great deal about Sasuke and still wanted to be his girl, she was no longer under the delusion that he was perfect in every way. Aren't you a little worried though? Ayame asked. Are you kidding? Naruto said with a wide grin. They're the ones who should be scared of the real me. The real you? Ayame asked questioningly. Aw crap. I said too much. Heh, yeah, I mean the awesome ninja I really am. Not the idiot everyone thinks I am. Ayame accepted that, but both Sasuke and Sakura looked a little worried. The conversation went in another direction and eventually the mean ended with the three of them going their own ways. Idiot. Naruto berated himself. The real me? What the hell was I thinking saying something like that? Heading back to his cramped apartment, he saw the ugly glares from most of the people on the street. Then again, why do I bother since everyone knows anyway? For the first time he wondered if Ayame and Teiuchi knew the truth about him. They were both good people and among the tiny minority that actually treated him like a human being. Unlike most of the restaurants and places to eat in Konoha, he had always been welcomed there and made to feel like a valued customer. He could remember the stand opening when he was 6 and first meeting them then. Had they just moved to the village? He wasn't sure, but probably. If they came here 6 years ago, they wouldn't know about him. If they did, would they hate me like everyone else? He wondered. After a short debate, he came up with the likely answer. Yeah, they probably would. The thought made him a little sad. People were so damn disappointing. Walking along, he picked up a familiar scent drifting in from behind him. A smile lit his face as his inner prankster came to life. Heh, this should be fun. He took a corner that actually led away from his apartment. The second he did so, he dashed up the side of the building and vanished onto the roof. Where did he go? Hinata thought sadly. Even though it wasn't really proper behavior, she had been following Naruto-kun since accidentally spotting him. Ever since that day he had called her cute, she had been dying to talk to him. But as luck would have it, that very day Sensei had announced they would be leaving the village for their very first C-rank mission. She'd been out of the village for a week before returning. She'd hoped to run into him again, but apparently his team had begun some very heavy training regimen. He was never around. Between his training schedule and her own training and missions, she hadn't spotted him until today. She wanted to go up to him and say hello. That wouldn't be strange, would it? He'd said she was cute, so that meant it was alright for her to go up and just say hello. He wouldn't think she was weird, would he? I'm such an idiot. I fainted in front of him. He probably does think I'm weird. And what would he think if he caught her stalking him like this? She put her head down in shame. She knew what her father would say, that she was disgracing her clan with such behavior. That she shouldn't behave in such a manner. The thought of her father's disapproval filled her with dread. But she kept looking for him anyway. When it came to him, she somehow found the courage not to care what anyone else thought. Though not quite enough to actually talk to him. Peering down the street he had just taken, she couldn't see any sign of him. Where could he be? Hey Hinata-chan, are you looking for someone? A cheerful voice said from behind. Eek. She jumped and twirled around to see Naruto standing right there grinning at her. He caught me following him. Her mind wailed. This time when she passed out in front of him, he was ready and caught her. Taking her in both arms, he looked at her peaceful face. What sort of ninja faints? He chuckled as he leapt up to the rooftops with Hinata still in his arms. I got to admit though, she really is cute. As Hinata slowly opened her eyes, she saw a face come into focus. You alright, Hinata-chan? Naruto-kun. That's me, he said. Hinata quickly looked about and realized she was on a roof alone with Naruto. Where are we? I brought you to a house near the Hyuga mansion. I guessed that's where you were headed, right? Right. She eagerly nodded her head. Thank Kami, he must not realize I was following him. Thank you for bringing me here, Naruto-kun. No problem, Hinata-chan, he answered with that smile she had always loved. You know, I was kind of hoping to talk to you, but me and my team have sort of been busy. Oh. That's all right, I've been busy too. What did you want to talk about? He looked uncomfortable all of a sudden and began to fidget a bit and cast his eyes down. Well, this is sort of hard, but I wanted to ask you something. What is it, Naruto-kun? You can ask me anything. She began to press her fingers together nervously. Is he going to ask me to? Naruto looked directly at her with those blue eyes of his and gently took both of her hands into his. I know you're probably going to say no, but would you go on a date with me, Hinata-chan? He did. He asked me out. She felt herself start to hyperventilate. Quick. Answer him before he changes his mind. Yes. She got out and somehow remained conscious. Naruto-kun, I would love to go on a date with you. Really, Hinata-chan? He asked in a shy voice. She nodded her head almost violently. Great. Then let's go out as soon as the exams are over, okay? It's a date, she said and felt happier than she could ever remember feeling. Behind his happy smile, Naruto was laughing. Chapter 14, Begin the Chunin exams. What do you think was going on with that whole scene up on the second floor? Naruto asked. Some sort of genjutsu, obviously, Sakura said with a touch of pride. It wasn't hard to spot. Since Kakashi thought she could best help her team as a genjutsu specialist, she had spent a lot of her free time reading up on the subject. She now knew the telltale signs of how to spot one. It's probably some sort of preliminary to the test itself, Sasuke said. Trying to weed out the really weak teams. Pfft, if you can't even figure out what floor you're on, that's pretty damn weak. Like that weird-looking kid in that green leotard, he was on his knees begging. Naruto's mouth twisted in disgust. He'd done that as a child, begged people for mercy, it never helped. People just saw it as a sign of weakness and were even more cruel. I'll never beg anyone for anything ever again. I'm sure he'll be one of the ones weeded out, Sasuke agreed. The ones we'll be up against will be the real competition. Bring it on. I can't wait. Naruto said. Sasuke nodded in total agreement and glanced at his two teammates. Physically they looked like they had back in the academy days. Naruto with that bright orange jumpsuit and goofy smile. Sakura with her red dress and long pink hair. Back then he'd thought nothing of either of them. When they'd been assigned to the same team, his only worry had been that they would slow him down. The only thing that was on his mind was gaining power as fast as he could. Hikdo had changed things. There he had seen Naruto's power and his determination to protect someone no matter the risk. He had seen Sakura's courage, though wounded she had not spoken a word of complaint and had not asked for help. She had stood up and done her duty like a real ninja. He remembered being surrounded by that endless sea of civilian faces and not being afraid. He would never admit it, but the reason he'd been unafraid was because he'd known that Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura were there beside him and would never abandon him. He wasn't alone anymore. Outside room 301, Kakashi was waiting. Have you come to wish us luck, sensei? Naruto asked. That and to remind all of you that it really is very rare for rookie squads to be nominated. If you don't make it, don't feel bad and just look on it as valuable experience for the future. What are you talking about, sensei? Naruto asked. There's no way we'll fail. That's right, Sasuke said. Sakura crossed her arms and frowned. Don't you believe in us, sensei? If I didn't, I wouldn't have nominated you. He stood aside and waved them to the door. Do your best. Right. Naruto said and led his teammates into room 301. Kakashi grinned as they stormed in. Good luck, kids, I really do believe in you. Having been students here, they knew 301 was a large lecture hall. Even so, they were caught by surprise at how full it was. Ninja in all sorts of different outfits and with various Hittites all looked their way as they entered. Most of them did not look friendly. Nice crowd, Naruto mumbled. HN. Nah. Naruto-kun. Naruto looked over to see Hinata there with her team. She was looking at him with a light blush already on her face and pressing her index fingers together. Hinata-chan. Your team is in the exams too? Why didn't you say anything? I'm so sorry Iga, guess I forgot. Having Naruto paying attention to her at once made her both happy and nervous. Sakura grinned. Now that Naruto had become a good friend to her, she wanted him to be happy. She was sure that since Hinata was such a nice girl and really liked him that they would be good together. Kiba looked at the scene and smirked. So you don't get any ideas? Naruto, your girlfriend is on our team, not yours. So don't expect her to help you out. Naruto shot him a confident look. That's fine, I don't need any help, but if you guys need some help feel free to ask. Everyone there, even Shino, raised a questioning eyebrow at what Naruto had not said. Naruto-kun didn't say I wasn't his girlfriend. Does that mean he think of me like that? The thought turned her face completely red. Naruto noticed it, and he knew the reason for it too. He'd picked his words with care and knew exactly what he'd said. Seeing her turn red gave him the perfect excuse to tease the girl just a bit more. It was kind of fun playing these little games with her. Sasuke had never known what he'd missed by just ignoring his fangirls. Leaning forward, he placed a hand on her forehead. Are you feeling alright, Hinata-chan? He said in a caring tone. You look kind of flushed. Naruto-kun is touching me. He's worried about me. Aw, come on. Kiba growled as he caught his teammate just before she hit the ground. He sent an angry look at Naruto. Could you please not do that for the rest of the exams? Sorry, he said innocently. I guess I don't know my own strength. There you are, cutie. I've missed you. A girl cried. Taken by surprise, Sasuke found Ino clutched to his back. Where have you been, Sasuke-kun? Ino asked. Ino, let go of me, he said in a frosty tone. Heh, of course, Sasuke-kun. She gave him a last squeeze and slid off his back. Spotting Sakura, she yanked down her bottom eyelid and stuck her tongue out. I'm going to make Sasuke-kun mine. Sakura looked over at her best friend. But rather than the loud argument Ino expected, she just got an annoyed question. Can't you take this a little more seriously? What do you mean? Ino retorted. When it comes to Sasuke-kun, I'm always serious. I was talking about the Chunin exams, you should be serious about that. Sakura snapped. Could you at least pretend to be a ninja for a while? What did you say, forward girl? Yara, are you being troublesome again, Ino? A lazy boy approached with a fat one munching on some chips. Shut up, you lazy jerk. Ino shouted. What? They let you guys in too? Naruto asked. Man, Kakashi-sensei said it was hard for rookie squads to get in here. I guess he was lying, Sasuke said. Yeah, Naruto agreed. Hey. You kids need to settle down. This isn't recess, you know. A silver-haired boy with glasses and a leafy tie approached them. The three rookies all turned to face him. The instant Naruto caught his scent, he stiffened. There was something about it that reeked of danger. Who the hell are you? Naruto asked sharply. Surprised by the sudden hostility, the teen raised his hands and smiled at them. Hey now, no need for the harsh looks. My name is Kabuto and I'm just looking out for my fellow leaf ninja. Thanks, we don't need your help. Now, no need to be like that. I can tell you're all rookies here. I just wanted to tell you to be a little more discreet. It's not a good idea to draw a whole lot of attention to yourselves. People are always tense when the exams start. You don't want to heighten the atmosphere with a public shouting match. Have you been here before, Kabuto-san? Sakura asked. This is my 7th time, he said. Then you can tell us what to expect. Sakura asked. Hell, Kabuto said pleasantly. The form of the tests change from exam to exam, but what never changes is that you will have to face some brutal competition from people who will do anything to advance. And since you are all children, you can expect to be targeted by other teams. Well, aren't you a load of sunshine? Naruto said. Kabuto shrugged. That's what you can expect. You're better off knowing the truth from the start. If my words scare you, you should go ahead and quit right now. Yeah right, Naruto said. I'm going to win this competition no matter what it takes. Miyazumaki Naruto. And what makes a little kid like you think he can win out against such powerful ninja? Because of what I am, Naruto said. Which is? If you're from this village you should already know. Naruto lowered his voice so only Kabuto would hear. Interesting, Kabuto thought. His mission was to scout Sasuke and learn all he could about him. But his teammate was turning out to be rather intriguing as well. There was a large puff of smoke and a dozen new arrivals appeared. All right you worthless bastards, one of them yelled out. I am Marino Ibiki, the examiner for the Chunin selection exam's first test. He paused and let everyone quiet down. Thank you for waiting, we will now start the first test of the Chunin exam. Each of you come forward and draw a numbered lot. Sit in the seat corresponding to that number. Once you are all seated we will hand out the tests. You have got to be kidding me. A written test. Of all his nightmare scenarios this one had never even occurred to him. He had built up his body, learned jutsus in the real world and in his sleep, improved his taijutsu with endless sparring sessions with hundreds of clones. What he had not done was study and book learning since his escape from the academy. As he sat down he noticed that by some quirk Hinata was sitting right next to him. The girl shyly nodded to him. Let's do our best Naruto-kun. Yeah Hinata-chan, he said. He noticed the light blush coloring her cheeks and the way she focused her eyes on the desk in front of her. He thought the way she acted around him absolutely adorable. He'd never had any girl pay him any attention. Having a cute girl like Hinata crushing on him was kind of nice. He momentarily wondered about Sasuke's sexual preference. How could any normal guy not enjoy having a pretty girl chasing him? All right you maggots listen up. Ibiki shouted. I'm about to explain the rules to your test. Leave the test face down until I tell you to begin. Listen carefully as I won't repeat myself and I won't answer any questions. He took a piece of chalk and began to write the rules down on the chalkboard as he explained them. First rule, you guys will all start off with 10 points. The test is made up of 10 questions and each one is worth a point. For each wrong answer you lose a point. Second rule, this is a team test. Whether you pass or fail will be determined by the combined scores of your teammates. Third rule, anyone caught by my assistants cheating will have 2 points subtracted for each offense. And the final rule, those that lose all their initial points during the test will be failed along with their 2 teammates. So if I get a 0 I fail. Naruto thought with mounting panic. The test will last 1 hour. I want you to show us what extraordinary ninja you can be. Begin. Through the room was the sound of papers being flipped over and pencils being pressed down. Okay, I need to relax, I know I'm not book smart but Sakura and Sasuke both are. Since this is a team event if they both do well it should be enough to get us through. All I have to do is not get a 0. I just need to answer one question right. How hard could that be? He looked at the first question. It involved cryptography. Did we even cover this in the academy? He looked at the second question. It involved angles and distances and possible wind velocities. He looked at the third question. It was filled with math problems that had more letters than numbers. Scanning down the exam he saw all 9 problems equally impossible to decipher. The 10th question was left blank except for a note stating it would not be given until there were only 15 minutes left. Aw crap, I'm completely screwed. All he could do was stare blankly at the sheet in front of him. He would have to hope and pray that he could somehow answer that last question. In the meanwhile Hinata was flying through the test without any apparent difficulty. He considered looking over at her paper for a quick glimpse. He was dissuaded when one of the instructors sitting to the side loudly announced a student had cheated 5 times. Ibiki loudly told him and his 2 teammates to leave. Other teams soon followed. If he was caught cheating just once he would lose 2 points. If he did manage to answer the 10th question it wouldn't do him any good as he'd have a grand total of -1 in that case. He decided he was better off risking everything on getting that question right. But then about 20 minutes into the test Hinata covered her mouth and spoke in a very low whisper. Naruto, you can copy if you want. He had to fight to keep the look of hope off his face. Pretending to yawn, he whispered back. Thanks, just let me see for a few seconds. Without an outward sign, she lifted her left arm and slid her test towards him. He glanced at it. Anything he saw even once he remembered. Just a couple seconds and he looked away, covering his mouth again. Okay, thanks. She quickly covered up her test again and he began filling out the answers with a gleeful smile. It seemed that having a girlfriend could be useful in all sorts of ways. The crowd thinned noticeably as team after team was ejected for cheating. All right. Ibiki spoke. 15 minutes left, I will now give you the 10th question. Naruto didn't care. He was willing to bet most of the answers Hinata had given him were correct. Whether he got this last question or not didn't matter. But before I get to that, I'll need to mention 2 additional rules that will apply. First, you will need to decide whether or not to take it. What? Some blonde girl with Asuna Hitai asked. Why would we not take it? Because of the last rule. Should you answer the question and get it wrong, you and your teammates will never be allowed to take the exam again. Not surprisingly, the entire room burst into loud shouts and angry demands. You can't do that. Kiba shouted. There are others here who have taken the exams before. It's just your rotten luck you got me this time. As proctor, my word is absolute. Anyone who answers wrong will be permanently barred from ever taking this exam again. He paused to allow that time to sink in. He saw nervous looks pass between teammates. On the other hand, anyone who rejects the 10th question will automatically fail along with his teammates. However, you will remain eligible to take the exams again in 6 short months. So please consider carefully how much you are willing to risk on this one question, not only your future but the futures of your teammates as well. Almost immediately someone stood up and announced he was rejecting the 10th question. He and his teammates were summarily failed and forced to walk out. 3 more teams followed in quick succession. Naruto leaned back and pretended to yawn, covering up his mouth. Will you help me again? Hinata covered her mouth and answered. Yes. With that, Naruto sat there and waited. There was no way in hell he was going to give up. Ibiki watched as team after team left. Anyone else? Whether or not you spend the rest of your lives as genin rides on this. He waited for a full minute but no one else raised a hand. Very well then, all of you who are still in this room, have just passed the first test. There was another loud ruckus followed by an explanation. Naruto tuned it out, the test was over and he had passed. That was all he needed to hear. Turning to Hinata, he gave her a relieved smile. Thanks Hinata-chan, you really saved me. Oh, it was nothing. No, you were putting not only yourself but your teammates at risk just to help me. That really means a lot to me. You took a huge chance, just for me. Her heartbeat was picking up and she could feel her face getting hot. I would do anything for you, Naruto-kun. Anything? He asked with an amused note in his voice. Her face got even darker. She couldn't find her voice but she nodded her head up and down. Leaning forward in his seat, he put his lips to her ear and whispered. That's why I like you so much, Hinata-chan. She let out a tiny little eek and slumped unconscious into her seat. I love doing that to her, Naruto thought as she carefully placed her hands in her lap. The little scene did not go unnoticed. Hey Naruto! Kiba shouted. What the hell did you say to her? Naruto smiled and wagged a finger at him. It's a secret. Look out! Someone shouted. A glass window shattered as a form burst into the room. A kunoichi in a trench coat, mini skirt, and fishnet stood in front of a banner that read, Proctor of the second test. All right idiots, enough celebrating. I am the proctor for the second test of this exam. Mitarashi Anko. Now follow me. The applicants remained seated blankly staring back. You really do have the worst timing, Anko, Ibiki told her. Humph. She did a quick head count of those in front of her. 60. Ibiki, you left 20 teams? You went way too easy on them. What can I say? We had some exceptional candidates this time. Ha. I'll cut their numbers down by at least half. Alright, all of you get up and follow me, we're going directly to the start of the second stage. Where's that? A squat rain ninja asked. Anko grinned wolfishly. Special Training Ground number 44, better known as the Forest of Death. Chapter 15, The Forest of Death. 20 teams had gathered outside Training Area 44. Before them was a vast forest with massive twisted trees and vegetation so thick it was hard to see how one could get through it. Did Eureka or Mizuki ever mention a training area like this? Naruto asked. If they did, I must have been out that day. Sasuke said. All right. Now listen up, you maggots, because I'm not going to explain this twice. The very first thing we'll need to do is have each and every one of you sign one of these consent forms. Anko smiled at them in a slightly bloodthirsty manner. They clear us of any liability should you be killed or terribly maimed. I mean, you wouldn't want me getting in trouble now, would you? She laughed. No one else there seemed to think it funny. Now I'll explain what the second phase entails and then you can sign your forms and turn them into the little hut behind me. To put it simply, the second phase will be a no-holds-barred survival test. Within this training ground is a tower located roughly 15 miles from all of the gates. The training ground also contains forest, a river, and all sorts of wild animals. Within this area you are going to go through a survival test. You are free to use any weapons, jutsus, or tactics at your disposal. The test is a fight-to-the-death version of, capture the flag, or in this case, capture the scroll. From out of her pockets she produced 2 scrolls. There is a scroll of heaven and a scroll of earth. Your goal is to acquire both. There are 20 teams here. Half of you will receive the earth scroll to begin with and half will get the heaven scroll. So your goal is to hold on to your own scroll, capture the other from an opposing team, and bring both to the tower in the center. So no more than 10 teams can possibly pass this test. Sakura spoke up. Anko nodded. That's right. Now there are some conditions. First, there's a time limit. You have exactly 120 hours to accomplish your goal and reach the tower with both scrolls. That's 5 days. Choji shouted. What are we supposed to do for food? That's your problem. The forest is filled with nature's bounty. Of course, it's also filled with poisonous plants, man-eating monsters, and enemies. Sleep tight. Second, only a full 3-man squad can complete the assignment. Any squad with a member killed or rendered incapacitated fails. And third, you may not open the scrolls until you have reached the tower. As Chunin, you will often be trusted with top-secret documents. Consider this a test of your reliability. What happens if we open them before we get to the tower? Kiba asked. She smiled. That's for those who open them to know. All right, that's all the explanation you get. Now turn in your consent forms at the hut there. We'll exchange a heaven or earth scroll for 3 consent forms. Then we will take each squad to a different gate. You will all begin at the same time and at the same distance from the tower. Oh, and one final piece of advice. She looked them all over. Just don't die. Thanks for the advice, Naruto thought. Once his team had gotten their heaven scroll, they were led to one of the gates, but an instructor. Naruto spotted Team 8 being led to a gate in the opposite direction. Hey, I'll be right back. Before either of his teammates could object, he dashed away. What is that dope doing? Sakura giggled. Take a guess. Hey, Hinata-chan. Hinata froze at the sound of his voice. Ene. Naruto-kun. Before she knew what was happening, she felt him glomp onto her and press his cheek affectionately next to hers and rub it as a kitty might. Good luck, Hinata-chan. Do your best. And just that quickly Naruto let go of her and ran back to his team. I'll see you in the tower. Hinata stood there a moment, dazed by what had just happened. Naruto-kun, he just embraced me. Kiba sighed. 3, 2, 1, and she's out. He and Shino both automatically caught her as she fainted. You know, this is really starting to get annoying. We should consider ourselves fortunate, Shino stated. Imagine if they were ever assigned to the same team. Kiba laughed. Yeah, she'd be passing out every 5 minutes. As Team 7 was led away, a grass kunoichi watched with an interested smile. When the time came, the instructor unlocked the gate and Team 7 rushed into the forest along with their many other competitors. They spotted a small clearing and came to a momentary halt to decide what to do next. I can't believe they rushed us straight from one test to the next, Naruto complained. They probably just don't want to give us time to try and prepare anything, Sasuke said. It's working, Naruto said. Well, Kakashi said it would be hard, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised by anything they throw at us, Sasuke said. So what do we do? Sakura asked. We're locked in a battleground with 20 enemy squads who have probably picked us out as easy targets. That's fine by me, Naruto said with a grin. If they want to come after us, that just saves us the trouble of having to track them down. Dummy, we shouldn't look for extra trouble, Sasuke said. We need to get an Earth Scroll so we can get out of here and Tata Tower as fast as we can. What, you afraid of a little fighting? Naruto teased. I absolutely can't wait. I want all the action I can get. What he wanted was real life and death combat. What he wanted was blood and lots of it. Just the thought of that was making him twitch with excitement. This isn't a game, Naruto, Sasuke said with a frown. We need to treat this like a mission and take it seriously. Naruto caught a scent in the air. Heh, whatever, I'm going to take a leak. He headed towards some nearby shrubs. Hey Naruto, don't go too far, Sakura called. There could be enemies anywhere. Yes, mother. He disappeared into the bushes. He had just finished when he felt a kunai at his throat. Don't move or make a sound if you want to live, a rasping voice said. Naruto smiled. Aww, but that wouldn't be any fun. He tried to grab the weapon. Fool. The Rain Ninja said and shoved the tip of his knife into the soft flesh of his throat. The second the skin broke, the kid vanished in a puff of smoke. What the? Now who's the fool? A voice said from above. The Rain Ninja looked up just in time to see 5 copies of the boy come down on his head. When the Rain Nin came to again, his respirator had been removed and he'd been tied up. He was lying on the edge of a small pond with the blonde and his 2 teammates. The blonde was kneeling over him with a ridiculous smile on his lips. Hi there. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours? The Rain Nin stared up at him and remained silent. Not going to answer my question, huh? That's kind of rude. He grabbed the man by the back of his head and shoved his face into the pond. The Rain Ninja struggled, but with his arms and hands bound it was easy to hold him there. Naruto, Sakura said. He had told them what he had in mind and they had agreed to it, but she still felt uneasy. This has to be done, Sakura, Sasuke said quietly as he watched the ninja struggle desperately as Naruto continued to hold him under. It's just like when we broke all those kneecaps. I guess, she said. She still did not like it even if it was necessary. Naruto finally pulled him up. The man began gasping for air. Now let's try this again. What's your name? After several deep breaths, the Rain Ninja looked at his captor with real fear. Kagura. Pleased to meet you, Kagura, Naruto said. Now I've already searched you, so I know you don't have a scroll on you. So I need you to tell me where your 2 teammates are. I'm not telling you anything. Okay. Naruto shoved him back under the water. He waited a little bit longer this time, until the struggles had begun to slacken, before pulling him up again. Now do you really want to die over some silly little exam? Naruto asked. You wouldn't kill me? Why not? Naruto pressed his face closer and the smile changed. The goofy good nature drained away to be replaced by a wild animalistic look. Instinctively the Rain Nin tried to squirm away. People die all the time during these exams, right? Do you think anyone will even notice? If I weigh you down with stones and dump you in this pond, I doubt anyone will ever even find you. Unseen Sakura twitched a bit as she listened to this. Naruto sounded awfully convincing. The Rain Nin thought so too. I'll talk. Good boy, now tell me where they are and what jutsus they know too while you're at it. Great, we've got 2 heaven scrolls now, Sasuke told them. At their feet were a pair of unconscious Rain Ninja. Knowing where they were and how they were set up, it had been easy to take them out. It's bad luck, but the odds are in our favor that the next group will have what we need, Sakura said. Of the 18 other scrolls still available, 10 will be Earth scrolls and only 8 will be heaven ones. That means it's likely the next team we face will have what we need. There's no guarantee our next fight will be as easy though, Sasuke said. So what? I wouldn't mind something more challenging. Naruto said. If we keep fighting wimps like these it'll be boring. A high-pitched laughter descended on them from out of the forest. Instinctively they brought out their weapons and formed a triad with backs to each other. Naruto's eyes darted across the forest and he sniffed the air, but he could not spot the source of the mocking laughter. Out of seemingly nowhere a grass kunoichi leapt down before them. Ku, you should be more careful what you wish for. She had not taken out a weapon as yet and did not seem even slightly concerned about being outnumbered 3-1. Who are you? Where are your teammates? Sasuke demanded. With a thought he shut his eyes. When he opened them again the Sharingan was fully activated. Ah! There it is. My great prize. Ku, isn't it considered rude to ask someone's name without giving your own first, Sasuke-kun? He tightened the grip on his kunai. How do you know who I am? A predator should always know about the prey. The kunoichi said. From out of a hidden pocket she produced an earth scroll. This is what you're looking for, I believe. Unhooking her jaw she opened her mouth wide and let a long slimy tongue wrap around the scroll before swallowing it whole. Now then, let's begin the battle for each other's scrolls with our lives on the line. Yaearg! Naruto and Sakura both screamed as hundreds of kunai and shuriken ripped into them. Sasuke turned to see his two teammates writhing on the ground helpless. With his Sharingan active he could see patterns of chakra surrounding them. He turned back to his smug enemy who was still just standing there. What did you do to my friends? The kunoichi smirked, his impotent rage was so cute. Just a simple genjutsu, naturally with those marvelous eyes of yours you weren't affected. She took out a single kunai and licked its edge with her long tongue. Your teammates are of no interest to me, I am here for you alone, Sasuke-kun. Shall I dispose of them and put them out of their misery? Sasuke ran through some hand signs. Katongukaku no jutsus. Out of his mouth sprang dozens of fist-sized balls of fire that came at his opponent in a shower. The kunoichi laughed as she ducked and dodged, avoiding the hail of fiery missiles. Very good, Sasuke-kun. Come show me what you can do and don't disappoint me. The lives of your friends are at stake. Growling he went after her, his only thought was to keep this insanely powerful enemy away from his teammates. Sakura recovered first. After the initial shock she'd read the signs and realized it was all just a genjutsu. She had never imagined that a high-level genjutsu could actually inflict pain. She would definitely have to work hard to be able to master this kind of power. She brought her hands together and dispelled the illusion. Kai! With that the weapons sticking out of her, the blood, and the pain were gone. She saw Naruto twitching next to her and touched him, freeing him as well. He sat up and looked at her. What was that? That was a very high-level genjutsu. That was a genjutsu. Sakura just gave a weary nod. Though it had not been real, her body felt like it had just been punctured by 100 weapons. Naruto looked around. Where the hell is Sasuke? As if in answer they heard the sounds of laughter and fighting coming from the forest. A little shakily he got up to his feet. He saw that Sakura didn't seem capable of getting up yet. Stay here, Sakura-chan, I'm going to go help the teme. But stay here. Naruto leapt away. Though she wanted to help she needed just a few minutes to recover her strength. This is bad. Sasuke thought. He was attacking with all of his might, but every punch and kick was being blocked easily. His opponent seemed to just be playing with him. Enough, the grass nin finally said. He saw the punch coming for his head, his Sharingan showed the path it would take and where it would hit him. But he was not fast enough to avoid it. It slammed into his jaw and he was sent flying off the tree limb they had been on. He hit the ground and managed to roll and then get back to his feet. His enemy gave him no chance to collect his thoughts. She sent a kick into his stomach, again he saw it but was too slow to do anything but get hit. He was sent flying through the air again to crash into a tree. Ayak! This time he tasted blood and felt a couple ribs snap. So is that all there is? She asked with disappointment ringing her voice. A couple mediocre fire jutsus and some hand-to-hand? Not bad for a child, but I expected more from you, Sasuke-kun. Are you really his brother? What? He looked up. What did you say? Chuckling, the kunoichi delivered a kick to his side that broke another rib and made him cry out in fresh pain. You're nothing compared to him. Just a pale reflection of what a true Sharingan user is. I came all the way here, Sasuke-kun, just to meet you. I was so hoping to find you worthy of my interest. You have no idea what a disappointment you are. The kunoichi grabbed him by the shirt and lifted him into the air. I had thought about giving you a very special gift, but I see that would be wasted on one such as you. Still, you have the Uchiha blood in you, and that's worth something. She began to laugh. I'll take you back to my lab and dissect you. With your eyes and your DNA I can start a whole new series of experiments. She reared back and threw him with all of her might towards a tree. The kunoichi watched, expecting to see him slam painfully into it. Instead, he was caught out of the air by his blonde teammate. Naruto got both arms around Sasuke and landed with him on a nearby tree branch. He could see Sasuke was bloodied and battered. He had taken a beating and was barely able to stand on his own. You all right, Sasuke? Nah. Naruto, Sasuke gasped through the pain. Get out of here, she's way too strong. Don't worry, it'll be all right. Red chakra began to surround him as he carefully put Sasuke down on the branch. He could feel all the power surging through him. He could feel his body changing, his eyes becoming red, his teeth becoming fanged and his hands clawed. He stared down hatefully at the person who had not only hurt him but his teammates as well. She was staring up at the boy who was now completely surrounded in demonic chakra. What have we here? I wonder if my trip here might not have been wasted after all. I'm going to kill you, Naruto declared. Laughter rang out. Well, come and try by all means, but please don't disappoint me. He launched himself and covered the distance in an eye blink. One punch connected and sent the foreign kunoichi flying into and then through a tree. Naruto did not hold back. He chased after her before she had even stopped rolling along the ground. In a flurry, a series of punches and kicks all landed. The kunoichi had no chance at all of blocking them. This is for what you did to my friends. He howled as a last kick sent his enemy into the ground in a heap. Having completely crushed her, he was ready to end it and began forming hand signs. And now you can die. Kaze Subata no Jutsu. Charged with the Kyuubi's power, 100 unseen blades formed in the air around him, and then flew at his helpless target. There could be no escape from so many at such a short range. The kunoichi's body was sliced and chopped as though put through a grater. Tiny pieces were thrown up into the air, where they turned to mud. What the? The ground at his feet burst open and the grass nin leapt out, slamming a hand onto his cloak. 5-part seal. The red chakra dissolved around the hand, which went through and struck his stomach. The clothing beneath the fingers burned away until they touched Naruto's hidden seal. Naruto gasped and shook, his chakra cloak twisted and stirred for an instant and then vanished. Naruto fell wordlessly to the ground. Superb. Absolutely magnificent. Were I anyone else, you would have killed me. Staring down at the unconscious form, fresh plans were forming. So, Minato didn't kill the Kyuubi after all, eh? What a shame I can't take possession of your body, Naruto-kun. But there are some things even I don't dare to try. Were I to accidentally break your seal, it would be the end of me. But there are other ways to use that power inside of you. I will make you love me, and turn you into my most precious servant. Get away from him. A girl shouted. Orochimaru looked up to see the pink-haired girl standing here with a kunai in her hand. How amusing, I'd forgotten how ridiculously heroic the ninja of my village could be. No need to worry, he's only asleep right now. I wouldn't hurt Naruto-kun, in fact he's just become very important to me. So important I think I'll give him a very special gift. Fangs extended out of her mouth and her neck popped out and twisted like some sort of snake. With relish, the kunoichi bit down onto Naruto's neck and injected him. Naruto's eyes popped open. Arg. He began screaming mindlessly. Naruto. Sakura ran to him, ignoring the obvious danger. What did you do? She screamed. given him a little something for the future. A special gift, one that normally kills 9 times out of 10. But somehow I'm sure he'll survive. Opening her mouth wide, the earth scroll popped out and was spat onto the ground. Consider that another present. Take him to the tower as fast as you can and see he gets treated. Orochimaru began to slowly melt into the earth. And do be sure to tell him I look forward to seeing him again one day. With that, Orochimaru was gone. Mercifully, Naruto was soon unconscious. Though badly hurt, Sasuke put him on his back and carried him to the tower. 2 other teams were already there when Team 7 arrived. Atop the tower, a red-haired boy watched without much interest. 3 more potential victims to help him feel alive. Someone else who saw the arrival reacted far differently. Naruto-kun! Hinata shouted. What happened? He was hurt during a fight, Sasuke said. He wasn't about to share the details with anyone except Kakashi or the Hokage. Hinata, do you know where the medical facilities are here? Sakura asked. Yes. Follow me. Together they brought him into the tower and to those who might be able to help him. Chapter 16, So It Is Done. 3 figures stood in a secure room within the tower located at the center of Training Ground 44. Anko bowed low in abject apology. She wasn't the sort to say sorry or regret what she did. Most people thought she was rude as hell and more than a little psychotic. It was a reputation she treasured. Now though, she was really truly sorry. Please forgive me, Hokage-sama. Though I found him, there was nothing I could do to stop him. I would gladly have traded my life for his, but in the end I was powerless. Sarutobi calmly nodded and placed a hand on her shoulder as if her were her grandfather trying to comfort her. No one blames you for that, Anko. Your old sensei is one of the Sunin after all. And I know the seal placed on you leaves you especially vulnerable to him. She lowered her head in shame. Even after all this time, even after all her work, she'd still been nothing but Orochimaru's throwaway toy. What exactly did he say to you? The Hokage asked. He told me his only interest was in one particular boy. She made a face. He actually mentioned trading up, though I'm not sure what he meant by that. He was likely talking about Uchiha Sasuke, the third person in the room said. From what Sasuke said, Orochimaru claimed to have come here for him. But instead he seems to have shifted his focus onto Naruto, Sarutobi said unhappily. Well, the dirty pedophile threatened to unleash hell if we called off the exams, Anko continued. Though I wouldn't trust anything that bastard said. What are your orders, Hokage-sama? I have already ordered Umbu reinforcements to comb the forest in search of him, the Hokage said. Though I fear we will find no trace. For now the Umbu have been ordered to avoid the candidates still in the field and to mask their presence. We shall continue with the exams for the time being. Please continue to monitor the situation and inform me of any changes. Will do, Anko said with a bit of her usual spark. Sarutobi waited until she had gone. You've examined Naruto? I sure have, old man, Jiraiya replied. And the kid's a mess, Jiraiya said flatly. Orochimaru placed 2 seals on him. He put a 5-point seal over the original one that's suppressed most of the Kyuubi's power. I've decided to go ahead and leave that one in place for now, removing it is no big deal. It's the other seal on his shoulder that's the problem. I know, Sarutobi spoke in a grave tone. The medic nins tell me his chakra system is fluctuating wildly, putting his life in severe danger. Can you get rid of this curse seal? Jiraiya slowly shook his head. Sorry, old man, but that would be impossible. It turns out it's connected to Orochimaru's life force somehow. So long as Orochimaru is alive, it can't be removed. Can you at least suppress it? Whatever that seal is meant to do, I want it stopped. Now that I think should be possible, but I'll have to wait until he recovers first. The strength for the seal has to come from the victim. If I do it now, I'm sure it would kill him. The medic nins tell me he may die anyway, Sarutobi said. Is there anything you can do to improve his odds? You know better than that, old man, Jiraiya chided. I don't know the exact nature of this curse seal. If I were to start adding anything new, there's no telling what might happen. Once he recovers, I'll help him, but until then we should leave it to the medic nins. I am very worried he may not recover, Sarutobi said. He's Minato's kid, right? I'm sure he'll live. Naruto remained unconscious for the rest of the day and into the night. Medic nins did what they could to ease his pain with jutsus and with antibiotics. But whatever they tried, he remained unresponsive and consumed by a high fever. Naruto tossed and turned and moaned weakly as his body was covered in sweat. Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke stayed at his side as he fitfully slept. Kakashi had also been summoned and had come to see him. He had left though to join the Umbu who were searching the forest. It was 3 in the morning and a bleary-eyed Sasuke was looking at his unconscious friend. He was the only one awake at the moment. Sakura was curled up in the second infirmary bed in the room. Hinata was seated in a chair by his side, but her face and arms were lying peacefully on Naruto's bed right next to him. If she wakes up like that, she'll probably turn red and pass out. You know, Dobe, I used to really not like you, Sasuke said quietly. He wasn't sure why, but he needed to say something and right now seemed the ideal time. I thought you were an idiot with all your stupid pranks and your dumb bragging about being Hokage. When you got put on my team, all I could think about was how it was going to slow me down. You better believe I never thought I would ever need you to come and rescue me. I'll take you back to my lab and dissect you. With your eyes and your DNA I can start a whole new series of experiments. You threw yourself at Orochimaru and wound up like this to help me. I didn't ask you to do that. And if you think I'll be in your debt, you can just plain forget about it. I'll definitely pay you back, Dobe. So until then you're not allowed to die, got that? Besides, how are you going to be Hokage if you don't recover? You're always going Hokage this and Hokage that. So you definitely have to get better for that reason too, right? Reaching down he placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Anyway, you can't leave just after I finally learned how to tolerate you, okay? A helpless child wept. I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. I'm a good boy, I am. Shaking, he pushed himself further into the alley's corner. There was garbage and dirt and dog shit, but he didn't notice. All he saw were the angry faces closing in on him. All of them with the same eyes. Those damned hateful eyes. Demon, an old woman hissed. Monster. Killer. Why won't you just die? They threw things at him, rotten fruit, beer bottles, small rocks. He covered himself up and closed his eyes. The Umbu would come, they always came before he could be killed. But somehow they never came before he was hurt. What did I do? The little boy wailed. Please. Just tell me what I did. Whatever it is, I'm sorry. As he waited for the beating to start, the angry voices all seemed to fade away. So this is what you are in your heart? Just a pathetic, scared little boy. Naruto looked up. Everything was gone. Not just the mob but the alley, the sky, the ground, they were all gone. There was just white as far as the eye could see. And there was himself. The 5-year-old Naruto was looking at the 12-year-old him. The older Naruto was in his orange jumpsuit glaring at him. So is this all you are? The older boy demanded. I thought you were supposed to be an adult, that you were through being a child. But here you are crying, hiding, begging, you're pathetic. I can't help it. The little boy whined. I just want people to like me, that's all. But they don't like you, do they? Everyone has always hated you, haven't they? Not everyone. Jiji is nice to me. And Ayama and Teiuchi, and... The boy was trying to think. 3 people in a village of thousands? They're just the exceptions that prove the rule. They're not the only ones. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura are all nice to me. Wrong. They're your teammates, they tolerate you because they have to. Don't forget how those 2 used to treat you. They only changed because they have to work with you. Kakashi will treat you in whatever way makes it easier for him to control you. The older Naruto growled. Hinata-chan. Hinata-chan, the other Naruto said. Well, every male needs a mate. But just remember, she doesn't know what you really are. Oh, the little boy said sadly. I forgot. Pretty big thing to forget. He approached and the smaller boy scrambled back. You don't need to be afraid, I'm you after all. I am the only thing you can trust, I am the Kyuubi's power. I am the only one who will never betray you. He held his hand out. Take my hand and I will wash clean your pain. The little boy looked up curiously. What happens if I take it? Oh, nothing bad, he said with a smile. I'll simply lend you some of strength. Your mind is unsure and your will is weak. I will just give you a little bit of my resolve. I'll strengthen your mind just like I've been strengthening your body and your chakra system. I'll take away your doubts and the pain you've always felt. I'll make you what you should be, what you need to be. What's that? A monster. But I don't want to be a monster. I want to be like everyone else, I want to have friends like everyone else. You're not like everyone else. You're the Kyuubi, you were made for killing and destroying, not for making friends. Think about it. What's happened to you every time you've tried to make friends? What's happened every single time you've opened your heart to someone? I get hurt, the little boy said miserably. I try to be good, but people always hurt me. You want it to stop, don't you? All that hurting. Yes. Then just take my hand and accept what I'm offering you. If you do that, no one will ever be able to hurt you again. Little Naruto looked at the outstretched hand. I won't hurt anymore? Really? Your body may bleed, but your heart will be safe. I promise you. That's what I want to stop hurting. Then take my hand. All right. Getting up, the child carefully reached out and placed his small hand into the palm of the other Naruto. The older boy closed his hand around the other and laughed. So it is done. Naruto opened his eyes. Naruto-kun. You're awake. Hinata threw her arms around him and hugged him with all her might. For once not worrying about being embarrassed. I'll go and get the doctor. Sakura hurried out. Sasuke stood over him and gave him a slight grin and nod. Welcome back, Dobe, how do you feel? With one hand he began to stroke Hinata's hair as he smiled up at Sasuke. I feel great, in fact I feel better than I ever have in my life. That's it for part 2. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.